One day while exploring around the Sunset Sarsaparilla factory, we see a bunch of fiends gathered around a barrel on fire at the foot of a hillside behind the factory. We can do the world a favor and take them out. After looting their corpses, we see a trail going up the hill behind them. As we climb the trail, the wonders of Robco's Pip-Boy technology marks a bunch of hostile enemies on our compass. Their jerky movements and the sheer number of them tells us already that these are cazadors. So being ever so careful and crouching down, we can sneak forward until... one of them comes right for us. And then as we move forward, more come from around a rock. At the top of this hill, we see a shack, and behind the shack, a bunch of cazador nests. Let's see if we can finish taking them out. Well, I sure feel sorry for whomever decided to build a shack next to a cazador nest. We see a ruined blue truck outside, and moving forward, we discover Brewer's Beer Bootlegging. And we find the shack's unfortunate owner lying dead at the shack's doorstep. This was Gord. And on his corpse, all we find is a bottle cap and some minor loot. What was Gord thinking? But then again, maybe the cazadors moved in after he built his little shack. With the owner dead, we can head inside to see what's left. We find a tiny little shack, and it is in utter disarray. Empty Sunset Sarsaparilla bottles lying all over, whiskey on the ground, some jet on a bookshelf, Mentats and Medics in the next one. Looks like this guy might have had a problem. And then moving over to the southwestern bookshelf, we find 5 bottle caps, one of which is a Sunset Sarsaparilla Star bottle cap, a bottle of whiskey, a bottle of scotch, and hiding behind the scotch, the bootlegger's cellar key. And then we see it. Doors against the western wall. Using the key, we can open the hatch to arrive at a staircase leading to the basement. We find ourselves in a cluttered basement, but not quite as cluttered as the main shack. Moving clockwise, we find a BB gun on the ground with some BBs on a table next to an average locked explosives crate. There's a stack of suitcases, a bunch of crates we can't loot, a first aid box against the brick wall, and a hard-locked gun cabinet. We'll have to come back for this. That's it for this corner. Continuing clockwise, we find an ammo box on a shelf, and Gord's bed over in the northeastern corner. Can't blame him for wanting to sleep down here. And then we begin to find crates and crates of Sunset Sarsaparilla. For a bootlegger, he sure did love his soda. There's a room to the west, and here we find strategic nuclear moose. And God said, "Let them have beer." Oh, well, that must have been the brand of his beer that he was coming up with. This is actually a reference to a real beer. In 2009, the Brewdog Brewing Company launched a new beer called Tactical Nuclear Penguin. It had 32% alcohol and at the time was claimed to be the strongest beer ever made. Instead of Tactical Nuclear Penguin, here we have the Strategic Nuclear Moose. I'm betting Gord had some sort of atomic ingredient in his beer and that it was pretty strong. We find stacks of beer on the nearby tables, but they're not special. They're just like every other beer. I'm a little sad we can't drink this Strategic Nuclear Moose. We don't know if the nearby barrels are filled with this beer or not. We can't interact with them. But he must have worked hard on his recipe. Moving southeast, we find a chemistry station. And here was his study material, a big book of science. Oh. And beneath it, we find the bootlegger's cabinet key. Aha, this must be for the gun cabinet. Bingo. I don't know if this is randomized or not, but in my game, I just found ammunition, no weapons, which was a little disappointing. Now, since this is a marked location, one might be tempted to turn this into a makeshift player home, but that's a bad idea due to the cazador nest right outside. The Cazadors do respawn, which makes leaving and arriving fairly difficult. And that is the full story of the Brewer's Beer Bootlegging Shack and the clever but never realized strategic nuclear moose. Did you discover Brewer's Bootlegging Shack in your game? Did you survive the Cazadors? Let me know in the comments section below. 'Tis the season, and I'm away from the office for a while, so I whipped up a bunch of these Fallout minisodes to tide you over until I get back. If interested in my shirts, you can find a link to my shirt shop in the description below or by clicking here. If you like what I do and you want to support me in a more personal way, consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon or a member here on YouTube. But more than anything, I'm just so glad you're here watching this video with me today. Thanks so much for watching, and I hope you all have happy holidays.